Section 22. The final walkthrough. One last look before closing. When we left Ashley in Section 17, Rachel finally said the words Ashley had been waiting to hear. Clear to close. Ashley immediately asked Daniel whether she could finally finance the new sectional she had been eyeing. Daniel laughed and told her, "You've waited this long, let's get the keys first." Ashley's financing is nearly complete. Maria is preparing the closing, and the seller has been packing. There is only one more visit Ashley wants to make before signing the final documents. The final walkthrough. She asks Daniel, "This is where we inspect everything again, right?" Daniel explains that the final walkthrough is important, but it is not simply a second inspection period. The purpose of the final walkthrough under the applicable Arizona purchase contract is generally to give the buyer an opportunity to confirm the property's condition shortly before closing and evaluate whether agreed upon matters appear to have been addressed. Daniel reviews the current contract with Ashley because, as we've said throughout this course, the actual contract controls. He doesn't rely on what a different contract said 5 years ago or what happened in another transaction. Ashley and Daniel arrive at the property. The seller has moved most of the furniture out, which gives Ashley her first opportunity to see areas that were previously covered. She walks through the kitchen, opens a few cabinets, looks at the rooms, and checks the items that were addressed through the inspection negotiations. The electrical repair appears complete. Documentation for the HVAC service has been provided. The water heater item has been addressed. Then she walks into the laundry room. There's water on the floor. The smile disappears. "Daniel, was that there before?" Daniel looks at the floor. It wasn't something they previously observed or agreed to accept. This is where an experienced buyer's agent earns their value. Here's where many agents get into trouble. They immediately choose one of two extremes. Either they say, "Don't worry about it, we're closing tomorrow," or they say, "The deal is dead, we're canceling." Daniel does neither because he doesn't yet know enough. He documents what they observe and contacts the listing agent promptly. What happened? Where's the water coming from? Is there an active plumbing leak? Did something occur during the seller's move? Has the seller already addressed it? Does an appropriate professional need to evaluate the condition? Daniel begins gathering information instead of making assumptions. Michael has another broker rule. Closing pressure does not make a property problem disappear. Think about what is happening emotionally. Ashley has given notice to her landlord. Her belongings are packed. Her family knows she's buying the house. The seller is moving. The lender is ready. Escrow is ready. Everyone wants the transaction to close. That pressure can cause people to make poor decisions. Someone says, "It's probably nothing." Someone else says, "We'll figure it out after closing." Be careful. If a material condition changes before closing or an agreed obligation has not been completed, the parties should address the issue according to the contract, rather than simply hoping it disappears after recordation. Daniel also reminds Ashley what the final walkthrough isn't. It isn't automatically an opportunity to reopen every issue she previously accepted during the inspection process. Suppose Ashley now notices that the kitchen countertops have a small scratch that was visible during her original inspection. She cannot simply assume the final walkthrough creates a brand new inspection period. The purpose is generally to verify condition and contractual performance under the applicable agreement, not to renegotiate every previously known characteristic because closing is tomorrow. Now imagine something different. During the original showing, a refrigerator was included in the contract as personal property to remain. At the final walkthrough, the refrigerator is gone. Ashley says, "Maybe the seller forgot." Maybe, but the contract doesn't become optional because someone forgot. Daniel contacts the listing agent and points to the written agreement. The parties can then determine how the issue will be resolved. This is why clearly identifying included personal property in the contract matters. Memory is not nearly as useful as a written agreement. The same principle applies to repairs. If the seller agreed in writing to complete a specific repair, Daniel should help Ashley verify the agreed work and available documentation, rather than assuming it happened because someone said, "It's taken care of." Back in the laundry room, the listing agent contacts the seller. It turns out a washing machine supply connection leaked while the seller was disconnecting the appliance. A plumber is called, the source is addressed, and the parties obtain additional information concerning the water. Daniel discusses the situation with Ashley, and when necessary, Michael becomes involved to help evaluate the contractual process. This is important. Daniel doesn't personally decide that the repair is good enough for Ashley. He helps her obtain the information needed to make that decision. If the issue cannot be resolved before the scheduled closing, the parties may need to consider a written solution appropriate to the contract and circumstances. That could potentially involve delaying closing or another negotiated resolution, but agents should not create informal side agreements that contradict closing documents or lender requirements. If financing is affected, Rachel needs to know. If escrow instructions are affected, Maria needs to know. If a legal dispute develops, legal counsel may be appropriate. Fortunately, Ashley's situation is resolved. The leak is addressed, she receives information concerning what occurred, and she decides she is comfortable proceeding. She stands in the empty living room and looks around. Tomorrow, this is mine. Daniel smiles. If everything funds and records properly, we're almost there. Ashley shakes her head. You really refuse to say it's done, don't you? Daniel laughs. Not until it's actually done. That's the lesson. A successful real estate transaction is not complete because the buyer signs documents, because the lender says clear to close, or because everyone is standing next to a moving truck. In the next section, Ashley is going to sit down for closing, sign the final documents, and learn what funding, recording, and possession actually mean in an Arizona transaction. We're almost at the keys. Online discussion 1. Ashley discovers water on the laundry room floor during the final walkthrough. What should Daniel do first? Answer. Daniel should avoid minimizing the condition or immediately declaring the transaction canceled. He should document what was observed, promptly communicate with the listing side, gather information concerning the source and extent of the issue, and help Ashley obtain any appropriate professional evaluation. The parties can then address the matter according to the purchase contract and other applicable agreements. 2. Why isn't the final walkthrough simply another inspection period? Answer. The final walkthrough generally allows the buyer to evaluate the property's condition shortly before closing and confirm contractual performance, including agreed repairs or included items. It does not automatically reopen every condition previously known or accepted by the buyer. The applicable purchase contract determines the parties' rights and obligations. 3. The contract states that a refrigerator will remain, but it is missing during the final walkthrough. How should Daniel handle the issue? Answer. Daniel should refer to the written contract, document the missing item, and promptly communicate with the listing agent. The parties should address the issue based on their written agreement, rather than relying on assumptions or informal recollections. Any resolution should be properly documented and coordinated with other transaction professionals when necessary.